This is the Poddy with Serene
and Pearl.
Get it right, Poddy.
Get in here, Poddy people. It's the Trim Healthy Podcast with Serene and Pearl, and I'm Danny. And just so appreciated our last show with Coach Amy G,
Wasn't it good?
Fun.
who's now a part of our studio audience.
And her cowboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be a new week for you guys. It's the
But
same
it's the
day.
same old week
Same
for
old
me.
crusty week for us.
Same old outfits, same old walnuts that I decided to take out of my bag and eat.
Hey, something not too many people know, now that I have the voice of a silver-tongued devil, I used to have a very coarse, gangsterified Southern accent.
Did you have to me
Yeah.
for hours?
No, my livelihood depended on losing
What a
the...
walnut, Dan?
I'm good on that.
The reason
Guys, for those who are not on the visual, that disgusting smacking sound is walnuts.
the reason Danny called himself the silver-tongued devil is because I told him that I re-listened to a podcast as I do every week because, you know, I work.
I work.
That was a dig at Serene.
Work. Serene's just an at-home mom.
No,
Yeah.
I work.
I'm just kidding. And I thought to myself, you were saying something, Dan. I thought he does have a pleasant, good-sounding voice. And so I told him that. Now Danny might be a little puffed up.
No, you know what it is? I'm puffed down. It's a put-on.
okay.
It's a put-on. It's an act.
So what's your real way of talking?
You know, I've almost completely forgotten it, and I almost can't do
So
it.
that is a what if you could then, because you
Well-
put it on and now you are it.
Now I am it. But it was kind of, it was like Southern gangster, because I was from Memphis. Mm-hmm. So I think,
You're like, what up?
yeah, like, hey,
What up
what's
in the hood?
Like, what's up, guys? Yo, we trying to get together today. What's up?
You lost it so bad it's failing.
Yeah,
Is it
because
so
you
bad now?
sound like a real try-hard with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the timbre of
but
your
that was
voice is
the-
nice. I like it.
Yeah, that was the vibe. Anyways, enough about this.
Oh,
enough about
okay.
you.
Serene's got some good meat. Serene, I'm going to sit here eating walnuts while you bring it.
Well,
Why are you all eating walnuts now?
it's time
There's
for a
something good
snack.
about a plain walnut.
What do you mean you don't love walnuts?
I have walnuts on my oatmeal every morning.
No, walnuts are
don't
good.
love-
You know what I love is walnuts with sea salt.
Ooh.
Oh!
It's like the same raw, beautiful.
They're
Just
They
let the
don't need
walnut
anything.
speak for itself.
Just take one.
Walnuts
take
are
one
so
and let it
dry.
speak for itself.
No, they're not. They're
Open your
moist
mind.
with oiliness.
Open your mind, Danny.
Hey, don't say dry.
okay, let me try.
Say luscious walnut.
Here we go.
Luscious.
Moist,
Yeah.
dank
And
walnut.
it's a...
But there's nothing dank about it. It's very smooth and
No, like a
creamy,
dripping cave. Just
creamy,
give me a
creamy.
second.
Give
me
him a second.
Don't say dripping cave. That's what he said, like a dripping cave.
Okay,
I have an open mind. Aren't they delicious?
these are really
That's a
nutty.
purist snack.
Can you imagine chomping on that as you eat the luscious rounds of oatmeal swollen?
No, just imagine it by itself, just
Or
like that. Let
by
it-
itself, but then add a raisin like ratatouille.
No, I don't want a raisin. I just want the walnut.
The
Okay,
walnut
let's
is
move on.
enough.
It is.
I don't have a teleprompter special thing to bring like I used to when I worked.
It's like a brain,
Yeah, you can't say that you're
Hold
still
on.
working on the book because we're done.
guys.
Hey, we were done just a couple of other days, but do you think that's all we do? Just work on the book?
No.
Serene,
But listen,
wait.
I still haven't had.
It's a brain.
Yes,
No.
that's why walnuts are good for you,
Zoom
the brain.
in on it. There's
yeah,
these
but
little.
you're saying the wrong side to the people.
There's
You got to
the,
show the other side of the walnut.
Yeah, well, okay, but we see the
There you
brain
go.
side, but then when we turn it over, look at the neural pathways.
I know.
Do you see those lines?
What is
Yeah.
that called now, Serene? It's
That's
the
why
law.
I'm so smart.
It's
Dan.
the law of
It's,
like treats
the-
like.
Yeah, but it's the signatures. It's
Yeah.
the
Doctrine of signatures.
And look how it's like a toroidal field going out like an apple.
There's the doctrine of signatures. So, like, in nature, there's like a kiss or a stamp, like from the creator, where and the pomegranates are great for fertility, all the seeds in them. And
They
of
look
course-
like what they're
right,
for.
exactly. Mhm.
Well,
So these are
hold on.
brain.
What do the seeds look like? I'm trying to envision
Just
what.
lots of little seeds, and
fertile-
so fertility is like seeds, like
red seeds. No, I was trying to visualize something that
I'm trying
was.
to make the crossover as well.
yeah,
no,
I didn't get it because apple seeds. I don't think fertility.
No,
But
just
these
think
are-
of all the little seeds. How many seeds are in it? Like the seed of Do you want me to go paint?
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Paint it.
Sperm? It don't look like sperm.
No, you don't have to look at that. The seed.
Oh,
It's
Serene,
fertility.
you went wrong because the walnut looks like the brain.
It does.
Look, pomegranates are for fertility. The seed, how many?
Oh,
Little
the
tiny little
amount.
seed,
You're saying the quantity, not the look.
Yeah, don't get the shape.
Well, that's natural though to
Girl,
go
you're
there first.
ruining it. You go look up the doctrine of signatures.
I did. I know it, but I didn't hear the pomegranate
It's
one.
called the doctrine of
no,
signatures.
pomegranate is excellent for fertility.
Eye bright is for the eyes. I knew that.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so anyway, I have not worked this up. Pearl called me in my busy work and said, "Do you have anything to say to the party?" And I haven't been used to taking time to like think about it because we have.
Don't
been in the
make excuses,
midst of the
just
book.
do
I
it.
have to give excuses because it's not prepared.
Let's do it.
Okay, so
Have we ever
I thought to
been prepared?
myself, what would I like to share? What have I been thinking about lately?
What have you been thinking
And I was just thinking about what I'm making bigger in my life.
about? Okay.
What am I making bigger? Because we're always making something bigger. Always are we making something bigger. Humans, we are excellent magnifiers. We're excellent magnifiers. I think we are born with this innate ability to make things bigger, to make something bigger. And then the other thing's going to get smaller. Whatever we focus on. Why? Is because we've got eyes in our physical eyes, we've got eyes in our mind, our mental eyes, we've got eyes in our spirit, we've got eyes in our emotions, like we see things through our dank, dark, whatever emotions that are not redeemed.
cave of our
We-
mind.
We have eyes for the past, which we shouldn't, but we have these eyes that are constantly in the past. We've got eyes, maybe in a worrisome way towards the future. We've got eyes for the present. We're like got a bunch of eyes,
Yeah.
right? We're constantly focusing on something, and because of that, we magnify things. And I think the reason why we're innately got this ability to magnify is because we are meant to magnify God, magnify our Creator, which when we magnify him, then our life falls into place, right? Because all our problems become smaller because we have the Savior, right? We have something bigger than all of our woes and our worries. But anyway, I thought you were clapping me down. That's it. And for all those reasons, I'm out.
It was like at you.
No, there's a little gnat flea flying around.
So
It's like in a film where they do the
just
the
case in
take.
point, sometimes we make things bigger and they're not even hardly big. Like
Yeah.
as a child, do you think I've got a big snosh?
God.
A big snozzer nose?
Yeah, I don't
No.
have a giant nose.
No, it's lovely size.
I don't have a small nose at all.
I
But
would
it's
not
not a
call it-
schnoz,
A
No.
schnoz is a big one.
a honker.
Now this is a schnoz.
No, you have a great nose. But anyway,
But
I
it's
don't
most of
have
my
a
face.
honker. I don't have a lovely defined nose. Pearl's has a lovely defined nose.
Long
It's a lot
nose.
thinner than mine. It's a lot more dainty.
But it's longer.
I don't think so. But anyway,
I love my nose.
I used to look in the mirror and I got this term. I don't know if it's even official, but I called it nosorexia, where every time I looked in the mirror, all I looked at was my nose. I didn't look at eyes. I didn't look at the nose in amongst the other features.
Yep.
I just went straight to the good
You
old
were a
banger.
big nose.
Straight to the nose.
Yeah.
And my nose grew and grew
yeah.
and grew. And as an 8-year-old child,
Wow.
I had nose problems.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're looking at me because they see my nose. Oh, I saw that person. They stared at my
They're
nose.
staring at
and then
my
I would
nose.
stare at my nose. And I got nosorexia.
Wow.
And then I actually got anorexia as a child too. And I was a very thin
How
child.
Old? How old?
It was that whole season
8
from
to
about
10?
8 to 10.
8 to 10.
Massive
that's
anorexia.
hard.
I had these two beautiful little sisters my best friends down the road, and they were from Malta.
They weren't sisters, but they're like sisters.
No, they weren't
Yeah.
my sisters. They were sisters.
But
two
what?
of
They were
them.
tiny or
two
something?
friends,
or-
tiny,
Yeah.
totally tiny.
And so you were in your mind. were
Well,
fat.
I was just humongous.
Yeah.
Compared to them, because from some kind of, I don't know, Amazon 6-foot tribe genetics, right? And so my skinny thigh of a tall girl, when it squashed on the truck going to drive wherever we
Yeah.
were going together,
Yep.
as passengers,
Yep.
mine was 7 times their little thigh,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so I got anorexia, but you see, every time I looked in the mirror, I saw with these distorted eyes, because I'd magnified whatever fat I had on my body, I would look and I would see rotundness. I would see it and it wasn't there. I had magnified it. It's
Yeah.
very scary,
Yeah.
our ability
Yes.
to magnify. And it's a gifting of humanity, you know?
I've magnified things in my marriage that maybe were just little specks, but in my mind, they grew to be huge honking noses.
Yeah. Massive issues in your that needed to be fixed. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, I'm going to talk about that later too.
Oh,
What
okay.
are we
That just
magnifying?
came to mind.
Yeah. And we're going to go through it and all of that stuff. But, you know, even if there is an area we need to work on, maybe we do have problems in areas spiritually, like emotionally, or we've got some failures going on, or we've got some issues that we need to work on, or maybe it's physical, maybe it's like our thighs, maybe we have some poundage to lose, but magnifying it never helps. And so sometimes if we're on this health journey and we're like, oh, I just really want to get on plan because I want to lose some weight on my thighs or whatever. But if we're constantly staring at our thighs, we can hardly see any success because we are magnifying things that are even making it worse than it is.
So true.
Remember when you used to have a thigh?
Yeah, I used to, and I've never been a.
And it wasn't because they
very
were
large
big, you
person.
just like,
No,
I
I
have a
had
thigh
big
hatred.
thighs for my body, which was small but big thighs. But now I just love them.
Yeah, but you used to make them more of an issue than it was,
because
right?
I looked at them. and-
Yeah.
yeah.
I've done it with every part of my body.
You can do it
Yeah.
with small things. Like you had
I'll be right back.
wristorexia
Yeah.
in the opposite direction. You're like, they're so small. My wrists are so small. My wrist is so
I have
small.
baby bird wrists.
And all
it's-
you would see when you looked in the mirror was
That's it.
small wrists.
That's all I could see. I would look in the mirror and I would see these baby bird wrists, and then before I left the mirror, so I would look at them like this, but before I left the mirror, I had to go and hold them like that, which spins that bone in and widens the wrist, and I had to confirm that I wasn't a baby bird, and then I would leave the mirror. And I did this for over 10 years.
And guess what?
And never thought about it.
You don't even need to look at the mirror. So many people, like I said, we have eyes all about us, really. So many people have this internal mirror
Yeah.
that they're constantly looking in. And it's nothing to do with the physical mirror. And they're constantly seeing themselves in a certain way that in
100%.
a negative way. And they're just constantly expanding the issue and making their whatever they think is wrong way, way, way bigger. So I'd like to go through some things and challenge ourselves, because maybe as we talk amongst ourselves, people will be like, oh my goodness, that's me too. And we can challenge each other into seeing things that may be derailing us, making our life never be able to get to any place of victory because of what we're making greater.
Do you know what,
And-
Serene?
Yes.
There's not a human in history that has ever even seen the external world. All it is it is our interpretation of, it is our central nervous system's interpretation of electrons and particles as we have a detector. This is a photon detector. That's what that is.
What you're saying is our perception is always different.
Everything that enters these photon detectors,
Yeah.
light hits them and it goes in, and immediately expectation, conditioning,
Oh, yes.
beliefs
Yes.
mix with
Oh,
the
yeah.
photons.
It's not just one set of eyes.
Yeah, and so
It's-
everything means something. And so you never really see anything as it truly is. And so, in other words, to reinforce your point, what you see is what you decide to see.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why they say for anything to be really true, most people, eyewitnesses, they need to have a little different story. When everything is matching up so perfect, it's like, this is probably they got together and conspired about this, because
Yeah, it's true,
everybody,
'cause
it's
people
like
see
with the
things different.
Gospels, Matthew, Mark,
Yeah.
Luke, and John, there's a little different take, and people like, this proves their authenticity, because everybody has a slightly different lens on how something went down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was just thinking, I mean, of course, it's so simple, our faults. And like Pearl was talking about in the marriage, just she went ahead and said, sometimes she just loves to make bigger her husband's faults instead of the things, and I've done it in the past too. And it's not just in ourselves, we can do it with other people. Instead of the good things, the good qualities, and to just concentrate on the things that drive us nuts about ourselves and others until they drive us nuts, or we drive our own self nuts and we just,
And now you're in a bad marriage.
despair for life. Right.
You know, I think there's something these days that's kind of all a bit of the rage, but I don't see it working. And it's part of it is necessary. It's the accountable marriage. You know, you're accountable to me. I'm accountable to you. I'm here accountable for your growth.
Oh, I hate it.
You know, But really, that just, I don't think that improves marriage.
I'm not hating it for whoever's coming to me and saying whatever. Like Pearl and I, we like to be accountable to whatever, to each other. She'll be like, I hate it when you fist pump. Like that's just, you're just making,
I don't
it's like
mind
you're
some
forcing,
fist pumps. I don't like
you're
a forced
forcing
fist
me to
pump.
agree with you. Like when okay, so I stop fist pumping. Not only her, but everybody who I'm around her.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I'm just teasing. No, I really have tried to change. But but I think in marriage, that's not really the person I think to be. Because sometimes when we think I'm your accountability partner, we can say I'm your teacher and I'm going to be the one that tells you what you're doing wrong or right.
You'll make that
Well,
person avoid you.
it's magnifying the faults. That's what
Yeah.
it's doing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey, I want to see growth here. I'm here for your growth. And really in a spousal relationship, yes, I mean, there's accountability that you're going to be true to me because we made that covenant.
Yeah.
But this, I'm watching, that fault's come up
How
again.
many hours did
I
you-
see that fault.
Right. It's like, I didn't see you clock in on how many hours on the Bible, but you've been playing video games with the boys for whatever. It's like, you're not the accountability to, it's like, they have a conscience. If they're a believer, they have the Holy Spirit. There's other, whatever mentor they decide to have in their life. But I think I'm talking from a wife being accountability partner.
Who does it more,
I
men
think
or
that's-
women?
Woman.
I think women do it.
And I'm saying that because of myself.
I'm not beating up on women. I just think we're good fixers. We love to be fixers. My biggest thing in my marriage is like, he doesn't try to fix me. My husband just loves me unconditionally.
Same with Lisa's.
Yeah, and yet and it's been my big thing that I'm trying and still working on. I have ideas for people.
Oh, I do too. How they
Little
stand,
tweaks,
their
little tweaks.
posture, like everything.
What
Dress
is it?
code.
What is it? What is it? Explain it.
Whether it's 2% milk or whole milk, there's all kinds of. I have a decision.
Help
on
us,
thought process on all
poor
of it.
monkeys, understand that. What is
I think
that?
it's our sad lot in life that we have to work against.
I mean, I just think women, some of the, look, I don't want to be woman bashed because I actually love women. I'm one of them and I love being a woman. And
I
I
love
just
being a woman
I feel not empowered over men, but I feel empowered because such a privilege to be a woman.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel that some of us, and I think you're going to talk about this, Serene, some of us women come from a place of fear sometimes. And so that fear can be, what if they don't get the right thing? What if they don't do that right? Let me fix it.
Do you think it could be evolutionary, like survival? Like, man, if he's not on point, we could starve. And that's not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
But
I think more of a fear thing. I think it's
Well,
like
he was
this
saying
is-
that, but he was saying evolution. I'm not a big
I don't mean
evolutionist,
evolution.
but yeah.
Like
I hear the word
evolution.
and I
But
just
down
drop
the
out.
track,
Yeah.
it often is coming through fear, or maybe we're just annoyed.
Okay, I mean, okay.
We're easily annoyed.
I mean
sex.
evolution, not like from 40 million
Yeah,
years ago. I'm talking about
just-
from 200 years
Yeah,
ago, where
right.
where women like needed men to survive.
Yeah.
like you literally didn't go work at the coal mine,
Yeah.
and that's where the work was and where the
Right.
money was, and maybe
Yeah.
not 200 years. I don't know, maybe 400. But do you think that there's a survival thing that makes women more careful?
No, I think
What?
we just really love to fuss. and we got to be clear again. When we said accountability partner, like Pearl said, we're not going to stay in a marriage where a husband thinks he can go off and do something weird, and we're
Yeah.
I'm not.
no way. I mean, I'm staying in a covenant that's being held by two people.
Sure.
So yes.
Yeah, all huge
But-
grave
yes.
errors aside.
Right.
Like, well, we're talking about how we stand, what we, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
But if he has to check in with me and I have to tick what he did right or wrong, I'm sorry. My marriage is going to be very non-intimate.
Because guess why? Because your lens is then a lens of are you doing the right things?
did you wipe down the bench properly? What do you call it, bench in America?
Counter.
Did you wipe down the counter properly? Oh, there's still a little breadcrumb. Like some people. Anyway, I could go off.
Anyway, let's not go
move
off.
on. Let's move on because we're going to get hate mail. We always tend to get hate mail when we talk about marriage.
Really?
We
Tend
do.
to. Keep
But we're
going.
actually encouraging ourselves because
Men have their own issues, but we're women talking to women. Men can
Yeah, I
talk to
could-
men.
yeah.
You know,
I could do it.
You
I'm
could-
having too much. I'm enjoying
you
this
could
too much.
totally bring it to the 17 guys, but there are only 17
Yeah.
here. So
no, we're not saying men don't need to be fixed, but not by us.
Yeah.
There needs to be, like I said, their conscience, the Holy Spirit, mentors, other men that rise up with this great idea of like helping out other men. I don't care. But it doesn't need to be their wives.
But the other practical balance of it is like help meet in the Bible means, you know, it
It
also
actually
means
doesn't
wisdom.
mean,
There's
but
a part to it that does mean that. So I think we have a place to bring wisdom. It's just different than a list of ticks.
yeah, no, it very is different,
Yeah.
but it's actually not exactly what we think it is.
Well, I
It's
think
not help me, like I'm going to have to help you change.
no,
It's not
exactly.
that.
No, I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to say it was.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Moving on. Our needs.
That was almost a fight, by the way.
Yeah. No, our needs. So many times we can make our needs greater instead of the proactivity of what the answer could be. Right? Like what steps we need to do
yes.
to get that need fixed, or the provider of that need, God or whoever it's going to be, to look and have faith and have hope, or get stuck in ourselves. Like, what's going to answer this? Like sitting, I'm cold. Well, just go get a blanket, or, you know, like move to a warmer state. Or,
Yeah,
I
the
don't
need
care.
of, oh my goodness, you know, what, this problem in our business. There's a problem in our business. There's a problem in our business.
Right.
Rather than the solution. What's the solution? Hey, are you bringing the Scrippy? Because I want to bring a Scrippy, but you're probably going to bring it already.
Yeah, but bring it. And
Well, it's one of yours, but I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to jump the gun.
where is my phone anyway?
I don't want to jump the gun, but can I jump the gun?
Pass me my phone. 'cause
I know you were going to bring this
Well,
one.
bring me the phone, because then I
But
can
can I
at least
talk-
give the reference.
Well, I
Yes.
got it. But can
I love how
talk about
crusty
it?
your phone is too.
Because you said to me this morning, then I looked it up and I had a further thought about
Yes,
it.
but can we? Yeah, we're bringing that now, are we?
Okay, I can wait.
Well, we're doing the list, a little bit of a small list, and then you guys can add to it. Dark emotions. Sometimes we can just really laser focus and put the magnifying glass on that. And I'm really feeling a bit depressed today, and
That was me in the
just
workout gym
just
this
really
morning.
feeling depressed. And then we have it in our mind, and that's what we look at. You know, when we start focusing on just everything negative, every dark, depressive thought, and we just
Make
it's
it
just,
bigger.
yeah, it's like a cat chasing its tail. And you know, there is true clinical depression, and you know, many times people may need, in situations, certain medications. I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but there's been a lot of research on those who have actually just changed to positive thinking, and if you're a believer, being renewed in the mind of Christ, right? Mulling over truth, mulling over the things that are true and wonderful. It actually changes the neurons, changes
Well-
the chemicals, and actually long term, there's more help in that than even in medicine.
Well,
They've done studies.
What it is strength training for the mind.
Yes,
You know how
exactly.
we have to do strength training for the body. It's equally as important for the mind.
You
And
know,
it-
I was-
and
The
it is
thoughts
tough.
change the chemicals. The thoughts
Yeah.
actual change the chemicals that are out of balance, because there is actual physical reasons why some people can be more mentally unstable. But one of the answers is have a better thought.
You know, I think we can go too far in our society with over-diagnosing what could just be a bad habit. You know, it's like, oh, now you have a quote disorder or whatever that disorder is. However, having said that, when I was having a crash out midlife crisis, as the world got to see on the Term Healthy podcast,
Yeah, he used to wear his wife's robe to Kroger.
It's about 4 years
He
ago.
didn't even
and
wanna
to the
get dressed.
podcast. Like
Yes, he wore
I
it to
literally,
the podcast.
I'm one of the few people that had a public midlife crisis, a very public, like a Hollywood guy. You know, where you just see him melting down in
Even
Kroger.
after the podcast, you'd still be lying on the couch.
Yeah, you
And
just be
and
like,
we'd
talk
be
to me.
counseling
Talk
you.
to me.
So I actually was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and anxiety disorder during that time. And I don't think it was wrong.
Right.
But one of the doctors said, it was the first time I really heard the word rumination. You know, I'd heard it, but
Yeah.
it was the first time I really thought about the word rumination.
Such a
because-
biblical concept.
Well, he said rumination is depression. You got to stop. He's like, you're ruminating on your body. Every bump, everything, he's like, did you spend your life like poking and feeling your body up until this point? I'm like, no, he's like, the past couple years, you're just feeling everything. And he's like, you're like self-discovering now. Like, oh, there's a bone there, and I've never felt a bone there. And is it a bone or is cancer?
And the more you press on something, the more it gets tender.
and the more it
So
hurts.
all of a sudden, and the hurt's growing.
Yeah.
Oh, and the hurt's
and
growing.
I
and
keep
you're just-
pushing it and ruminating. And he was like, rumination is depression. And if you can stop ruminating, you can stop being
Now,
depressed.
this is interesting, and I love what you said. I feel like kind of logically makes sense to ruminate on the darker emotions. It's like, okay, there's a worry. Ooh, I have to process. I have to do more of that. Like it's almost like this thing. Oh, I should practice this.
Well, 'cause
worry,
it's survival.
right?
It could be
But then
dangerous
who
to not
thinks
ruminate.
everyone thinks I want joy. Like I want peace, and they pray desperately for it. God, they scream, give me peace or whatever. And it's all this like lashing out, like give me. But no one ever thinks to work on those.
Yep.
You know, like it's like, oh yes, there's a fault. I'm going to think about that fault. It's like I'm going to actually do this. I'm
poke
going to
it
think
like
about
you
it.
poke your spot.
Yeah. No,
Your
but no
favorite
one
spot.
pokes joy over and over and over all day.
Right.
Or like goes out and thinks, I'm gonna really take some time thinking about the peace in my life.
You know what?
No,
I
people
do
don't
now
do that.
because of my midlife crisis. Now I poke at joy. I actually
So
do.
good.
I really try. I really stop and go, whoa.
Yeah.
so
Look
good.
at that. Look at that backyard. Like I
Yes.
didn't build this backyard. It's this beautiful tropical plants everywhere.
Yeah.
And then as I'm watching the backyard, my daughter leaps,
Yeah.
through the scene. And I'm like, wow, this is heaven.
I mean,
I'm
it's
in
called
heaven.
joy grabbing, right? We talked about it on a podcast.
You
It's
gotta
so
try.
interesting.
You gotta
No one
try.
has to go out and get a journal and get inspired and kind of like watch somebody else's reel of them journaling with their coffee and whatever. Nobody has to do that to think about dark, sad, depressing thoughts or failures.
Yeah.
It's natural, right?
Too
You
easy.
just sit there
It's
and
like
you
gravity.
start,
It's just there.
It's just there.
Yeah.
But to think about thankfulness, you got to go and get the leather-bound book, and you got to get your props,
Yeah, you
and you
do.
got to get your corner and your special coffee. And if it's not right and the cream is not right, there ain't no
Back to
thankfulness
darkness.
going on.
Back to
But
the darkness.
I was listening to this one podcast with this doctor who was like a biohacking doctor. I shared this on the podcast once, but only once. And he has all these rich and famous clients coming to him. Like he's the big guy, thousands of dollars just to see him. And he's like, the one thing that I asked them, like, when was the last time you had thoughts of awe? AWE. Oh, when were your last thoughts of awe? And they can't think of it. And he's like, until you start thinking awe
Yeah.
thoughts. AWE, it's my accent. I want to say awe.
Or
And still you start thinking daily awe thoughts, you will not get
Stop.
well.
Stop. Awe. What is awe? The greatness of something.
Yes.
It's
It's
what good
magnifying
thing
it.
have you made great? Because I don't know if you have awe over. Do you have awe? Awe is more of something like I'm standing in awe. It's more of something that's good, right?
Yes.
Like a positive thing made
Yes.
great.
Positive.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking to myself, that is magnifying. And then you
Yes.
can bring the scrippy now. Pearl. It's
because
perfect.
Serene called me. She said, I want to bring this scrippy. But then, Serene, as I read it, things were going off in my
Yes.
brain. So it is Psalm 34:3.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I'll magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. And then it continues. Okay, so we magnify the Lord. I sought the Lord and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears.
Yeah.
So think about it. When it is so true, right?
There's more to that. 'Cause I
Yeah.
like to go to all of verse 5.
Magnifying is so good for us, not because God needs us to magnify him.
No, that's not the way he does it.
We are delivered from our fears because instead of like doing this ruminating on our fears, we are looking to God saying, he is my comfort. He is my healer. God is love, right? And then these fears don't have power and they drop away.
Yes.
It's just 1 + 1 = 2. And it's so good.
Because he knows that magnifying works. Because you got all these other places saying, empty the mind, empty the mind. So don't ruminate, but just empty the mind, center, empty the mind, all of that, whatever. It doesn't do anything. The answer is God says, set your mind. So we're setting our mind. We're setting our mind on something, focusing, making that bigger. And of course, this is the positive stuff, right? And I love this. The next part of the verse, it says, and they looked unto him and were lightened. Because when we're making him big, all the other stuff just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
You know, I read, and I do this all the time. I read a piece of...
And their faces were not ashamed. I love
Oh,
that.
I love it. I read this piece of data in a woman's magazine. You know how they have all the health tips? It said, when you go outside and you're walking in nature, don't just look around at the trees. Look up to the top of the trees or look at a mountain, but take your eyes up. And it talked about a certain percentage of feeling less depression. I can't even remember, but it was like,
too.
yes, my eyes look up, you know?
To the mountains, where comes my help.
So
I love it.
it is just getting our eyes and our perception off the little things and looking up and magnifying. Like when you're looking at the tops of the trees and up to the sky, it is a feeling you're creating, even though you might not have been thinking of all thoughts. You suddenly feel awe.
You do. And it's not just the physical eyes. It is like the physical eyes. Danny looking in the yard and choosing, oh my goodness, look at my daughter flying through the air and I'm grilling this gorgeous meat. And it's like you've got this whole, you're starting to really snapshot joy moments, right? But it's also the inner eyes too of awe, you know, and thoughts that are not just what we see around us. Because we can live in a dark cave and have awe.
Yeah.
Right. Even when we're not seeing anything.
Hard to, but yeah.
No, what I'm saying, there are people, Richard Wurmbrand,
yes, I know,
that
I
have
see.
been in solitary confinement that had such thoughts of awe about God that when he comes back now to visit the cell for nostalgia's sake. Mm-hmm. Like some people will be like, I never can go back because that's trauma. He's like, no, I have to visit for the nostalgia's sake because I have thoughts of waltzing around the room with my savior. Like, well, it sounds weird to people that may not be into that, but he's like, had such relationship, such intimacy.
He full on hallucinated. He would talk. I've read this same book.
Yeah.
He actually talked about how because it was a sound and it was an audio and a visual deprivation cell.
Yes.
It was part of the torture.
Yeah.
Was the guards even wore slippers on their boots so that they would make not a sound. They wanted it to be a hellscape for prisoners. Wow. But for Richard Wurmbrand, when the sights and sounds were turned off, other parts of his brain activated, and he went into full on vast landscapes and tapestries, and he had relationships. There was beings that would come in. I mean, he gets very descriptive on entering this whole new world. And that's what he literally missed those things because when he was in the real world, free, not being tortured. Yeah. And I mean, his tortures were also vast as well. And yet somehow parts of his brain and spirit were activated in ways that, you know, scientists
amazing
just
books.
Now
People should read his
agree.
books, and of course he's glad to be free.
Just from a physics,
but
is he still alive though?
I don't know, but his books are incredible. We've read all of them; they're amazing. Yeah, amazing. But it wasn't like anything evil beings, but you know, maybe angels or whatever. But he was ministered to. It was incredible. Yeah,
it was. You know, when there's so many of like. There's so much stuff in the Bible that when you see it as a mindset and, you know, because when we think about the kingdom of God, you know, and I remember when I used to read the Bible, I would always...
I remember when I used to read the Bible.
I remember how I used to read the Bible. Yes. And everything was very next life. You know, it was all like... kind of hard to understand because it's like, oh, in the next life, or it was describing, you know, the invisible spiritual world that kind of like I always was interested in and wanted to know more about, but it wasn't like an application. It wasn't directly applicable to me. And
your lens when you used to read.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was something that one day I'm sure I'll understand because I wanted it to be so spiritual. I wanted it to be that super intense spiritual book that God hand wrote just to me. And I believe it is. It is that. It is a gift written for us. But, you know, when you see it as life applicable.
Well, the kingdom of God is now. You know, it's all for
and where
relevant today.
And where is it? Within. And so when you look up, there are physiological things like this is a machine. This is biological technology. There is actual merit to. I mean, it talks about lifting up the hand.
Yeah, there's merit.
Well,
physical
people
merit,
are now measuring energy in the palms. Yeah. You know, like scientists at universities are like, you know, in the heart as well, you know. They're saying to ground. So now we read the ancient scriptures about kneeling, placing your knees, getting on the earth, laying down upon the earth. And only recently are we like, yeah, when you do that, all these electrons start to flow with this toroidal field in your body that emanates from your heart. This is science, by the way. This
Right.
isn't my own personal beliefs. This is like stuff that you can see and measure with instruments. And universities are doing these tests and seeing that it's immensely beneficial to your body and your mindset. And why is that important? Like, well, how about like your children living in raised places of joy and love and peace, and what does that do to them and their vessel, to their bodies? Like, it's not like, I don't even think that our kids have to fully understand every teaching, but if we will walk in the kingdom, I think there's actually physical things you can do.
Well, it's like worship too. I believe God wants relationship, right? And there's that beautiful, I love you and you love me, that beautiful. But he doesn't need worship. He knows exactly who he is. He doesn't need worship, but he knows it's good for us. We were designed to magnify something. We were designed to be in awe. And the ultimate thing we're designed to magnify and to be in awe of is God, our creator. And as we worship, it's for us. It's the benefit comes to us. Like as we dance before him, if we so want to, or feel like it or whatever, or drawn to, what goes on in the body when there is not just inner worship, but physicality getting involved is massive.
People say people will fight you and say, I believe the Bible. It's the word of God. I believe everything and don't you dare. And yet they won't look at their children in the eye and say, you are powerful. You are beyond comprehension. They don't believe in what the Bible says, with the power of words and what they do and the vibrations.
Power of words,
that
right? It all comes out of the Bible.
Well,
life and death.
No, but I'm saying people aren't doing it. People are they're claiming that they will fight you to the death over the book, but they won't practice the
living
art.
the application.
Yeah,
it's
the
something
physics
removed,
of this.
right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like this. There is.
Our
this
mom always
wisdom
said
here.
What
Yeah,
What
yeah.
did mom say? She's like, encouragement is this soil that you grow your children in, and like you said, Danny, I feel, growing up, our parents in our home, it was light, like it was love and it was light. And I feel that, Serena and I want to pass things on to the world and to our children and pass along some of that, because I think it does make a difference.
Yes.
We were encouraged. We were told we could do anything. Mum had this sign on we all shared a toilet downstairs, and we lived in this place called 18 Welby Street.
That's why our publishing.
Yeah, cool.
house
Welby
was
Street.
Welby Street Publishing.
And it had this sign, and Mum used to write signs on the bathroom. So when you're sitting there, you look at them and ruminate on them. And she's like, the world is yet to see what will come out of 18 Welby Street.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just what, we're peeing and looking at it.
Yes.
But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
sunk
Yeah.
And I
in.
remember the poem,
Yes.
two little men stood looking
Yeah.
at the hill. One was named Kant, one was named Will. And this whole thing about Will said, I will get to the top of the hill. And Kant said he can't. And now he's there still. And it's like this whole,
Yes.
like,
We were indoctrinated.
Yes.
But man, I'm glad.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because you're
Yeah.
going to be indoctrinated with something. You might as well be indoctrinated with good
And
stuff.
it didn't fill us with weird pride, because life knocks you around enough. You need over the top parenting, encouraging,
Yes.
just make it right.
Yes.
Not so. I never felt like a proud thing, but we were so encouraged to the point where we used to sing. And write songs way back when. In the end, we got okay at writing and singing. But in the beginning, we were terrible, right? We wrote songs that were we wrote the spiritual song. We had from Genesis to Revelation in one song. And at the beginning, it was all joy. And in the end, everyone was going to hell. Like, we were like, literally, it was terrible. And we would sing with our little squeaky voices. And Mum would literally do cartwheels at the end. Like, oh, it's the best. Serene and Pearly. It's
Yeah.
the best I've ever heard.
Best ever.
So when we actually sang for a record company here in Nashville, they're like, this little quiet. And we're like, oh, they hate us. They absolutely, we're terrible.
They actually didn't hate us, but yeah.
I think those words.
No, they signed us, but.
I think the ancient world was way different than we have perceived it. So, there's kind of this idea that there's these kind of ooga booga, like dumb, less intelligent creatures roaming about, and then or almost human or whatever. And I don't believe that at all. When you read these ancient writings, most of them are in religious books, about the
Bible.
It's only the Bible.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Let's just clarify.
Yeah, I wanna be
No,
clear.
there are other religious books.
No, I
obviously.
the Apocrypha and all that. I agree.
Well, even just from a historical perspective,
Yeah.
I mean, if you take Hindu books, for example, like set aside beliefs about gods and goddesses, just the time period in which they were written, you can get insights of how the world thought, And, I sort of always kind of had this like internal prayer of hoping things would go a certain way. But I've come to sort of believe in the actual vibration of saying out loud things coupled with intention. Like I've sort of pieced together from a lot of the science experiments of late happening in universities. The government, the CIA has this whole train of like religious study nobody even knows about. It's brilliant. You can see it on their website. Go to cia.gov and look all this stuff up. They believe in energy and vibration. They use it at a military level. People don't know this. It's
Everything
so
that sounds woo-woo to people now as you're talking is like photographs used to be like, oh my goodness,
we're magic.
That's woo-woo.
Photographs were magic.
Yeah.
And they would see an image
It's
frozen
evil.
and people would freak out and be like, how does he get in there and why isn't he moving?
Yeah.
But like
They used to jail early photographers.
right. Is that true?
No, it's true.
God.
First one got jailed.
So I sort of like from taking, learning about just the way the world works scientifically, it would make sense that prayer should vibrate the world around you.
Well, it's science, yes. Is there a relationship with us with God? And did Christ die and pay for that and allow that healing?
Oh,
Yes.
it was the key that unlocked it all.
But God's the designer of the quantum world, where of course he's going to work
Science
in
is
it.
just a way of describing what God has done.
I think
It's
science
just-
is looking at God.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think when they talk about
Yeah.
neutrinos blasting from the sun, it's
I want to fall and worship.
Yeah.
it's a description.
Worship
They're giving words and assigning equations to what the world previous to the way we say things scientifically now called God. So I don't see a disconnection between science and
That's so
God. Science
interesting.
is the binoculars where we can see God if we are looking correctly.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you said before, I used to read and think, like, how can this be done for me? And it's so interesting thinking about how God is the all-powerful. And as we look to him, and magnify him, that's the faith, right? And that's unlocks the power and all that. But how God, it's for the now, it's for the practical, and it's within us. And he wants us to start walking that out and to step into the practical, right? Like when he was in the boat sleeping and he was upset at them and he had to get up and do the work. He's like,
You could
I
have done
gave
the
you
work.
authority. Like, why didn't you try it out for style?
Yeah.
Like he was like, you could have said peace to the
So
storm,
To bring it practical then, like super practical and back to Trim Healthy.
but they stared at the waves.
Yeah.
They
magnified the waves.
They magnified everything else, but the truth and the power of God and the authority he gave them to walk in
Yeah.
that power.
And so I'm thinking now really practical. I'm thinking, what are we magnifying in our health journey?
well, I was just thinking, this is what I wrote down. Are we magnifying the cages of rules? Like we talked
Yeah.
with Coach Amy about how, people complicate it all and then just look at the drudge of day but forget the reason why. So are we magnifying all of the disciplines but not seeing them just as a little side gig because you're seeing the why?
Yeah.
Are you magnifying the why? Because when your why and your purpose and your destination is constantly in your billboard, the everyday, that's just the everyday grind.
But
That's just
practice.
the
Like
sidekick.
you guys said, it's easier to, more natural to magnify the dull and the dreary and the problem, right? So it is work. It is fun work, though, and beneficial work to actually practice the magnifying of the why
I love it.
or of the good or of the solution.
And is there a little, like Amy, Coach Amy, Amy G.
Amy G.
Amy G.
In the last
house.
podcast was talking about how she has, she sees everything in orders and times and has, a little set schedule to stuff. But maybe is there a time that we can check in the day, maybe, and just say, hold on, what am I magnifying? Am I magnifying a problem right now, or am I magnifying the answer? Like, am I magnifying my why, or am I magnifying
smart. Put it on
like
your
a
calendar
little check in
every day at noon.
Because until it becomes like breathing, because I think that otherwise we just default to constantly magnifying negativity.
Do you know what I love to magnify?
Ants.
The colors on my plate.
Yes.
Like when
It's become a habit though.
Yes, but it's awe.
Yeah.
And then the journey is not like trudgery. It's absolutely brilliant. Like when I have my oatmeal in the morning and I put those red goji berries on it and the purple blueberries and the dark chocolate of the cacao nibs.
You can see them going into your belly.
Don't
right?
forget to magnify the taupe of the oatmeal.
Yo, it's all lusciously under there.
Taupe's
Is
okay.
the beautiful
No,
foundation.
I mean, you can really magnify
It's part
that.
of it peeking through, and then I do the dark cinnamon. And it's awe-inspiring, and that gives me more health when it goes into my body because I'm jolly magnifying.
Can I tell
it.
you one thing that I love with color? It's a beautiful crossover, but that's where I live right
Yeah.
now. And encouraging all those out there that are like me that need to live on crossover land. You are so on plan, and you're all part of the sisterhood. But guess what?
What?
Okay, love it. The purple sweet potato.
Okay.
It's purple like no other purple.
Yes, it is.
There's something
Yeah.
spectacular about that purple.
Yeah, it's deeply
And then
purple.
you've got the sockeye salmon.
Oh, yeah.
Bright orange. Then you open up an avocado
Ooh.
and you slice it on top of the purple and the orange.
The green.
Yeah.
The light,
And-
beautiful, creamy green.
You're in
Right.
heaven.
And then you
It's
can have
heaven.
some deep dark kale. You're making a salad. You got some toms on there, the little cherry. The colors.
I don't know
Yeah.
how you can't feel all for that.
When you start looking at those colors too, it's like your brain and eyes are seeing it, but I bet it's almost like I picture like signals going into the gut, and like the gut just starts to like open and like to receive nutrients.
Yes.
Like, is this real? I bet it is. I don't have any proof yet that the stomach gets porous and
I
absorbs more
believe you,
nutrients.
Danny. I do.
So this is anecdotal, but I bet you.
You know science is going to back you
I
up.
bet you I'll get backed up.
Oh yeah. No, but it's so
Yeah, when was the last time I experienced awe? This morning at breakfast. I
Yeah.
mean, it was awe-inspiring.
But it's something you have to practice, and I bet Graham Cook, if you're out there, you need to come to our party. I'm
Heck,
telling
we
you.
can get him here,
I have
right?
talked about him so much, but guess
He
what?
doesn't care about us. He
No,
cares.
he does. He
Oh.
cares about everybody. He's
Yeah.
a nice guy. It's just that he doesn't
He's
know
the
who we
Messiah.
are.
He's the
Anyway,
Messiah.
guess what? No, he's not. Listen, but I love what he said. He talks about practicing peace.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so true, because if you don't practice it, if you wait for a chaotic moment where you have to quickly draw up peace, you ain't practiced enough. Sorry. It's like, so he says, I practice to get to peace in like 3 seconds.
Ah.
Have a-
I'm
have a
getting it
way.
shorter. I'm getting my times down.
Build
you
a
know?
system to get to peace.
Because you need to get to peace pretty quickly before a wind of chaos just carries you, but you can't even grab us to the side of
Graham
peace.
Cook
That's
will
good.
save us. He's our father.
Listen, hey, it's just everybody has a mentor in life. I have many. My father's one of them, but I like a good old Graham.
I like good old Graham too. You send me some Grahams.
Well,
and
it's
I'm
just
like,
I love
thank you,
his
Serene.
accent.
I really like
I'm a
that
sucker
Graham.
for accent, and I'm not boasting because it's not my
What
accent. It's not
accent does he
Australian
have?
and New
British.
Zealand mutt. It's British. And he always talks about
hard to-
flipping well this and
it's hard to
flipping well
argue
that.
with a Brit.
He talks about the Bible and he's like flipping Bible and flipping well that.
says
It's so
flippin'.
culturally cozy to me.
Yeah.
Because we grew up with our relatives
And
saying
he's a bit
flippin'
naughty
that and
too.
flippin' that.
You know, like he's not naughty in a like we're naughty. We're way naughtier. But I mean, he just says stuff that most churchy people don't say.
Yeah, yeah.
Like flipping.
Yeah.
No, but he's just good old. He's like, well, good old John. He was here. Like he doesn't call him in all the names. What are some of the names he would shorten? Like, I can't remember now.
Yeah. We should move on.
Yeah,
We should
but
move
it's
on.
funny.
We're done, I think.
Hey,
Hey, Wes is walking out of our podcast.
I
He's
know.
done.
There's a stir in the crowd.
Yeah,
I hear little noises.
we
on the
don't know when we're
cameras.
done, but other people know,
Oh, the
and they
room-
have to
the
like.
room
The
knows we're
room
done.
tells us
They
so
have to tell
strongly.
us.
Yeah, okay.
Arden's been
Okay,
fidgeting.
group.
I felt the fidget start about 10 minutes ago.
I felt the same thing.
But I
10
like
minutes.
to toast up a point. Is it's relatively.
It's
No, I do
toast
too.
to
And
toast?
especially, I like to
Charred.
tell people that they're not going to decide
Yeah.
when our podcast. I'm just kidding. You guys, you're in charge. Thank you for hiring me over and over.